Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuck with Queen Bee Creations, and we're going to play with a little bit of watercolor today. No skill with watercolor required. We'll see how it turns out. And I say no skill required because I don't really have any watercolor skills to speak of. I just love them. And I figure I'm not going to get better with them if I don't play with them. So we're playing with them today. And what inspired me for this is this. I thrifted this triple framed, I mean, these are just little cards in there. They're not really pictures of anything, but I thrifted it for $6 less 30%. So about $4, right? And what I like is they've got little label holders down here, but it's got the mat already pre-cut. So the idea being I would do a triptych, right? I would do a picture three pictures that kind of coordinate. So to do that, I have measured the openings and cut my watercolor papers down to slightly larger size than that, and I've taped them off, and hopefully I haven't taped them too close, and we'll see how it goes. But I figure that I've done 6 because I need 3. That's how much faith I have in myself. I have to be able to toss 3. I can pick my 3 favorites. So all I want to do is make sure that I'm using the same colors on all of them. So it's the colors that are going to unify them, as opposed to, I'm not doing a triptych that is one scene that rolls across all 3. So it's not a continuous scene. They're 3 individual pictures ultimately, but they're all done with the same colors. So to get started, what I'm going to do is put you overhead so that you can watch me muddle my way through this, and you can live vicariously through me on this, but see that you don't need skill and how easy it is, and hopefully it turns out lovely and you want to do it. That's the goal. Okay, and my goal is to have something that's finished that I love. So let's jump in. Okay, so I think you guys can see, and that I can sort of see, so I'll try and keep my big head out of the way, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to be using my Kuretake Tambi watercolors because I got them for Christmas. They had a little sheet with the names on there, and so I glued each one down because the names otherwise are down there and on the bottom, and that doesn't really help me in understanding the colors very well. So I did that. So I have a cheat sheet. I have it on top and then underneath. So first thing, off camera over here, I'm going to take my spray bottle and I'm just going to kind of spray them to activate them. And really, I'm only using like 3 colors, so I don't know why I just did that. I could have just taken the little trays out and just done the 3. Okay, so next time, that would be a better idea. Next time. All right, I'm gonna run and grab a plate of some kind to do my colors. Okay, so I raided the kitchen, and watercolor likes this. I mean, it's gonna wash off perfectly, so no issue with that. But it's going to pool nicely. On plastic, it tends to bead up, but I'm thinking that I am going to use some, okay, I'm faking this. All right, so I'm gonna use a little bit of raw umber. So maybe brown. Oh, I'm not liking the raw umber. I'm thinking yellow ochre maybe. Okay. Well, we'll just start putting a bunch of colors and see which ones actually work for me. That's the one I wanted. But brown's gonna work too. So I have 2 waters way over here as I'm crossing my hand in front of you. One is my dirty water and one is a clean water. And then I also have a little rag to drop off. Now I definitely want some 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I'm just seeing, counting down which blue tray it is. Definitely some indigo. That's so pretty, isn't it? Okay. And maybe I reserve the right to pull another color in. Okay, so those are my 3 colors that I'm thinking of using. And I've got them maybe off to this side because this side's getting crowded. And I'm gonna start by doing the wet on wet technique. So watercolors, you could do the wet paint onto dry paper, which is going to give you one look. And you can then do the wet on wet, which is the wet paint into wet paper. So I'm thinking that I'm gonna do it into wet paper, and I'm just gonna drop some water. And I don't wanna do the whole page. I'd like it to kind of flow differently so that not all my little mini paintings look the same. If I did from top to bottom, then it's gonna flow differently each time. And these will have different looks because the water has been sitting and pooling in different ways. And I can always add more. All right, so I'm gonna start this first one with some of that indigo blue. I love, okay, see how that's blooming out there because of the water? I love that. All right, so the idea here is we're just gonna get some color on, and we can let them dry and we can add more color later as well. So you can see right here, that straight line, that's because that's hit the dry area. So far, we can all do this, right? And the only thing that I'm focusing on is squiggling some color on, but making sure that perhaps they've all got some slightly different looks and shapes to them. All right. Now, I'm gonna go to the yellow ochre because that's my lighter color, and we'll add in a bit of this. And you can see I'm just kind of dropping it in where it's merging with some of my blue already down. It's gonna do its own thing. Okay. So this is all abstract, and I'm thinking that we may turn them into mixed media. So afterward we may add in some pen work, some mark making. I don't know. I'm digging this one a lot. It's my fave so far. And this is almost dry over here, so maybe we can just pull some of the color across. So these last ones you can see don't bleed as much because they're much drier now. They've been sitting. So this is, see how you get those scrape marks? That's the wet on dry paper look. So just taking a bit of advantage of that. Okay, and you know what? We're going in for our last color. Now, this is our darker brown. This is our raw deep umber, right? So this is brown. So I want to be a little bit judicious with this. I think I'd like a darker brown even. How do I make you even darker? Your Indian red. Okay, let me get even more. Maybe I'll make it a little bit darker with a tinge of black. Let's add a bit of black to that. Just a bit of water. Okay, instantly moody, right? Just instantly got a little moodier there. All right, so this one, this is all dry, that line. Okay, I don't like what I just did there, and I liked that beforehand. Maybe a little bit more brown. Yeah, I think I like it with the brown more. So we're gonna pull more intensive brown, I think. Whoops. As I just dipped into the black. So you can see this has a lot less water to it now. These have all started to dry. All right, now that we've got some color on here, so far this one's my favorite. We're gonna leave this and let it dry, and then we'll add more color to it to add a little bit more depth, and then let that dry. So hang on while this dries. You could always use a heat gun. I'm just letting it dry naturally, and then we'll come back again. I've got clean water again, and all I want to do is just add in a little bit more color. So just to intensify some of the colors that I've got and intensify them a bit here and there. Make them a little stronger. So for some of this, I want some of that indigo to be a little bigger, a little bolder. So I'm gonna drop a little bit of it in. Just here and there. And I'll go back and do the same with some of the other colors, perhaps depending upon how they're looking. These have all completely dried. Now what I want to do, because I'm not doing just a pure watercolor, I want to add some details. I want to add a little bit of embellishment here and there. And so I've got some Golden Rule by DIY, which is a soft gold wax. And I'm just looking to add it here and there. So I'm just kind of using it to kind of highlight just some of those natural curves, some of the details in there. And then I also have a gold pen and a black pen that I will use as well to add some additional elements. And here I'm looking, you know, I may do some gold wax through this, especially on these lower pieces where, you know, I might want to kind of emphasize more trees or something. So I'm adding some texture up and down with this. I don't know, this is where you just get to play. If you have small little, oh, I like that. I like that in there. Okay, so, so this is where you just get to kind of play. If you've got some small stencils, which I don't, which is why I'm using this textured ribbon, then just kind of do your thing and add in some stenciling, add in some, that side's getting a little worn. Let me try a different side. And all I'm trying to do is kind of the same thing. These three are very similar. These three are very similar. So I'm looking at wanting to do across each row, whatever I'm doing to one, kind of do to the other in spots so that I've got some consistency of look, so that when I choose which three I want to put into my frame, then I have something that's going to work for me. Okay, that's kind of cool. All right, well, I'm just going to carry on playing with some of this. And so I like that for down here. Here I'm doing kind of more softer golden kind of. I just have a little piece of my watercolor paper here that I'm using to offload and test some things, but already you can see that little bit of gold is just perking some of this up a little bit. And we're now moving into a mixed media. I'm thinking I may go get my dark wax, my brown wax, and just see about using some of that in here too. I think that's it for the gold wax, maybe not for the gold pen, but this is looking stormy. This is kind of looking a little tree-like. So I'm kind of playing now. I add a little bit of dark wax up there to make it a little bit more moody. And now down here, because I've got that gold and it kind of looks a little bit like it's mimicking trees, I still have some of this wet brownish watercolor here. I've just got a little piece of the watercolor paper and I'm just kind of dotting it on the edge to kind of begin to highlight some of those trees. I may need to add a little bit more water to that. You start getting, you have to go the other way too. Not sure how good I am left-handed. It starts to kind of mimic the bark on trees. Almost like a, so I think I'll carry on with that and add some of those trees in there a little bit. Give just a little bit of definition, just a hint of it. I'm not looking at adding in all their branches and that sort of thing. We're just kind of giving the impression of it. I mean, that's it for that one. And so we need to carry on with these ones so we have the same sort of consistent look for all three so that they would be matching if these are the winners for the frame. My paintings are done, so I have this little series, which I quite like. Really, if I had two of these, I would be doing everything. I would do all of them. These ones, I added the gold wax and some of the dark wax, and I added in some little tiny, see, you can see the gold wax. I added in some little tiny gold dots so that it looks sort of like a galaxy. And I think that's the order. So what I do have here is I've opened up the frame, and you can see that these little cards weren't enough. So, and they are just little cards. So I'm gonna save them because I quite like those little sayings. And I think that it's something that, you know, when I'm set out to do some card making so that I have some little cards to gift, you know, some little sayings would be perfect. So I'm gonna hang on to those. The backs aren't any good because they've been taped, and so they're a little bit ripped, much the same as the back of this matting is ripped, but never know. You never know when you're going to need these. So each of them has a different statement and sentiment. And then on the inside, they say, "Today I celebrate you." So all of those could be used again. So as I am looking to do these, I just want to lightly tack them in place because I don't know that I've got them centered properly. And I'm hoping I sized them correctly. Okay, that works. In which case, now what I want to do is I want to put them in place just a little bit more securely. I like to do the corners and the upper edge. And then the sides. I like to leave the bottom open just so that they get to kind of flow and breathe a little bit. We'll see how it looks and whether I need to make adjustments or not. So make sure I have the hanging section up where it needs to be. There's our finished little triptych. So what was fun about this was looking to do 3 in a series. I mean, I was inspired by the frame and coming up with artwork to fit the frame, which is very different, but think of it as the frame served as an art prompt. You know, so sometimes you might see a picture, you might see a sunrise, you might see an apple on the counter, you might see, you know, a line in the sand, and it inspires you. It becomes an art prompt. It's something prompting you to create art that was inspired by that object, that line, that color, that the sun through the trees. I mean, whatever it is, those become art prompts. There are art prompt sets that you can get. There's books that you can flip through, or cards that all have different, you know, different textures or colors or shapes or something that just kind of prompt you to be able to use those in your artwork. Now, these ones, I quite like as well. They ended up taking on more the dimensions of trees and a forest. So I will go looking either for another little trio, right? And this could have been used this way had I done the cards differently. I wouldn't mind finding something that had, you know, allowed me to go in a different direction with these. If I don't find that, I could frame them individually. I could turn them into cards. I could cut them up and make them into tags. So never think, I mean, even if I didn't like them as done, there's maybe like a corner that I like. Maybe I like this upper piece, I like this lower piece, the stuff in between not so much. Well, then those become two different tags. I can make, or I could cut it into a small little square and then get a frame that has just a little square opening, a lot of matte, and lots of options. So don't ever get rid of something just because you don't like it in its entirety. Maybe you like a part of it. Maybe you like it on its own. The trio didn't work for you, but you know what? 2 out of 3 looked great. So now you have 2 different paintings or 2 different pictures to be able to use in different ways. Just always think, even if you don't want to frame it in its entirety, are there pieces that can be used for something else? Inevitably, the answer is almost always yes. Let me know what you think of this one. Maybe this served as an art prompt for you to give this a try. Let me know if so. Always looking forward to seeing you on the next one. And until then, take care.